Bright Duty. Every student matters.
Hello everyone. Now let's talk about another topic here, that is the round table conference. Now students, before this we have been talking about the civil disobedience movement, right? And we saw how the civil disobedience or the salt satyagraha or the Dandi march, it is famous by different names, and how it started, from where it started, who started it, and how many people they participated. We have learned a lot of things related to the civil disobedience movement. But later on we see that not only Gandhiji and his followers, people from different parts of the country in their areas, they also started defying the salt law by manufacturing salt. So many political leaders, they led these movements at different places. But eventually, all these political leaders, they were arrested by the British government, right? So this was the scenario that we have been talking about here. Let us try to understand what happened later on. So it was in the year 1933 that the government, it decided to organize the first round table conference in London. Okay, decided to organize, here it would be decided to organize the first round table conference in London. Now firstly, before understanding the whole round table conference, what was it all about and that, let us try to first understand the meaning here. What do we understand, or why is this round table conference significant? So the round table conference here, it means that we are talking about a series of conferences that took place between the British government and the Indian political leaders over the constitutional reforms in India. Right, students? So these roundtable conferences, they were taken place in London, and it was based on the idea that there should be some decisions on the constitutional reforms of India. Okay, and it was to be participated by all the important leaders, parties here in India, be it from the Hindus, Muslims, Sikhs, and so on. Okay, so it was in the year 1930 that the British government, it decided that the first round table conference should take place, and it was organized in London. But when we are talking about this 1930 year, we see that civil disobedience movement had already launched, and Indian National Congress, about which you already have learnt a lot, we see that all the important leaders, they had participated in the civil disobedience movement. So therefore, they decided to boycott the first round table conference. But nevertheless, there were Muslim leaders and other Hindu leaders who had not participated there. They agreed to go in this first round table conference. So it was not very much fruitful, because in the absence of the largest party, the Indian National Congress, the leaders were not present there. So therefore, there was no fruitful decision in this first round table conference. But after that, when the movement, it started taking a violent turn, we see that Lord Irwin, he decided to sign a pact, an agreement with Mahatma Gandhi. So here, talking about this year and this date, that is 5th March 1931. It is really important for us to understand these significant, students, because it was on this date that a pact or an agreement, in simple terms, it was signed between Viceroy Lord Irwin and Mahatma Gandhi. So we call this as the Gandhi-Irwin Pact. Now let us try to understand what was this Gandhi-Irwin Pact all about. Was it really that the Viceroy, that is Lord Irwin, he decided to fulfill the demands that Mahatma Gandhi had put forward in front of him there? Here we see that in the Gandhi-Irwin Pact, the British government, it promised to release all the political prisoners and withdraw all the pending cases against the political workers. Now, while we were talking about the civil disobedience movement, we saw, students, that many leaders, approx 1,000 leaders, they were arrested and put in jail. So here, now Gandhiji demanded, and many other leaders, they demanded for the release of these political prisoners. Right? Now they also wanted the Indian National Congress to participate in the second roundtable conference. So here, the Gandhi-Irving Pact that we are talking about, students, it was signed before the second roundtable conference. This is the image of the first roundtable conference here. Second roundtable conference. Okay. So here we see that the British government now decided that they are going to release the political prisoners, and they are going to release only those political prisoners against whom there is no violent records. Okay. And they are going to remove or withdraw all the pending cases against these political workers. Okay. Not all the political workers, because there were many political prisoners or political leaders who were involved in violence. So therefore, they decided to release all of them who were not involved in any violence. They had no charges against them. So here we see that based on this idea, Gandhiji, now he decided to attend the second roundtable conference. Okay, the second roundtable conference that took place in the year 1931. Now here people living close to sea, they were allowed to manufacture salt. Now the government also decided that people who were living near the sea, they could have the right to manufacture salt. Based on this, Gandhiji, he attended the second roundtable conference that happened again in London in 1931. Now look at this image, students. In this image, you can clearly see Gandhiji, who was representing INC, because most of the leaders, important political leaders, they were still in prison, and they decided that Gandhiji should represent the Indian National Congress there. And here Gandhiji, he went to the second roundtable conference. He thought that they are going to talk about complete independence for India. So here he demanded for complete independence at this roundtable conference. But do you think that British government, they were going to give up so easily? No. So they were not able to come to some conclusions here, to some agreement here. Therefore, second roundtable conference was really not very fruitful again, and Gandhiji, he was very much shocked with the behavior there, and he returned back. Now here we see that the civil disobedience movement that was stopped here in 1931 during this period, it now resumed or revived again in 1932. Mahatma Gandhi, Sardar Patel and other leaders, they were arrested. Again, in the wake of this, we see that all the important leaders who had now resumed the civil disobedience movement, they were arrested. Almost 1,20,000 people, they were imprisoned. Imagine the number here, students. These many people, over lakhs of people, they were imprisoned and they were kept in jail. It was finally in May 1934 that the civil disobedience movement, it was called off. Now students, here we see that the movement, it started to lose momentum. Why do you think that the civil disobedience movement, it started to lose momentum? Because we see that later on, people, they were not very much enthusiastic. Why? Because all the political leaders who had led the movement, they went to jail. Right? And there were many other people, because there was no leadership, they resorted to violence, which was suppressed by the British government. Harsh measures were taken against those people who were resorting to this path of violence. Okay, students? Many buildings, everything, we see that people started burning many places. So therefore, here we see that the movement, with the enthusiasm, with the momentum that it had started, it now started to decline, diminish. Therefore, in 1934, the civil disobedience movement, it was called off. Okay, and this was all about the roundtable conferences that we have learned. Again, we see that in the year 1931-32, the third roundtable conference was there. It was again attended by many other leaders, but it was again not fruitful for them. Okay. So here students, we have talked about the roundtable conference. Now after this, we are going to talk about the Quit India movement, that is the most important topic, one of the last movements that took place in our country which led to the freedom of our country. Thank you.